My most anticipated horror movie of the year, Queens of the Dead, landed on streaming services within the US. So thanks to my VPN, I took a temporary trip to America so I could watch this one. Now, I, being a super queer girly, was not going to miss the opportunity to get round to review this one because Katie O'Brien's in this movie, and while soft butch is not normally my kind of type, I will insert what my actual type is because, trust me, she's got a type. I will make an exception for Katie O'Brien because girl is an absolute babe. But if you don't know anything about Queens of the Dead from 2025, let me quickly fill you in. Queens of the Dead from 2025 is a zombie horror comedy. Drag queens and club kids battle zombies craving brains during a zombie outbreak at their drag show in Brooklyn, putting personal conflicts aside to utilize their distinct abilities against the undead threat. If you're new here, I'm Hannah, but I go by Hordes Online, and if you're not new, welcome back. I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, and the Boulet Brothers Dragula Titans on Saturdays. But as always, when it comes to watching movies that I have never seen before, I'm gonna go and watch Queens of the Dead off camera. So that way, if you too decide that you want to watch this very queer horror movie, nothing will be spoiled for you. Because nobody wants to watch a movie that you've just watched somebody else watch from start to finish, because then you're gonna know exactly what happens. And I keep it spoiler free here on my channel, at least on Mondays and Fridays, because nobody, and I mean nobody, likes spoilers.
Get away from me, you're straight. It's Pride Month.
When I saw Nina West, one of my favourite drag queens in the entire world, dressed as the Virgin Mary while lip-syncing to Blow by Kesha, with backup boys dressed as Jesus Christ and the Easter Bunny, I knew that I was going to be in for a good time. And trust me, that is just the tip of the iceberg with this one. So let's start with the plot, as we always do. The movie focuses on a group of queer people within the Brooklyn community, with the main focus, I would say, being on Dre, who is the person running a club called Yum. They are putting on a drag event and waiting for performers to get to the venue when a zombie outbreak happens, forcing everybody to come up with some kind of solution as to how they're going to get out of Brooklyn. More characters end up coming to the venue and leaving the venue, and there's more characters that you will meet. There's a lot of characters in this, trust me. There's so many characters going on in this movie, and it's really about found family and how we have to work together and overcome obstacles, and there's a lot more going on here than just the surface level. This also happens to be the featured debut of Tina Romero, and if you don't know who the Romeros are, where have you been in the world of horror? This is the granddaughter of George A. Romero, aka one of the absolute legends of zombie horror movies. So I'm happy to see that the sort of legacy is going to live on. If you are part of the LGBTQ community, or you're an ally and you watch a lot of queer media, I guarantee that you have seen most of this cast somewhere else before. We're talking things from RuPaul's Drag Race, American Horror Story, Pose, Fire Island, the list goes on. The cast includes people like Katie O'Brien, you've got Margaret Cho, you've got Cheyenne Jackson, you've got, I think it's Eva, I wrote everybody's names down for this. You have got Jack Haven, Eva Lindsay, and Tony nominee Jacquiel Spevey, who was nominated for their lead performance in the musical A Strange Loop. His vocals are phenomenal. If it's not super obvious from the cast members that I have mentioned, it is a very queer, diverse cast of actors in this, and the humour and the jokes very much lean into the queer lifestyle and the queer experience. So I'm sorry to the straight people out there. There is a lot of things in this movie that may go straight over your head. There's an astronomy and astrology joke in this. There's a fight sequence to Let's Have a Kiki by the Scissor Sisters. There is so much aimed at the queer audience in this movie, and as somebody who is part of that target audience, I couldn't be more happy to find a horror movie that is bang on for its target audience.
Let's have a kiki. We are gonna serve and work and turn and honey.
There's even a makeover sequence for us like 90s and early 2000s girlies, but also there is some conversations going on about how there is a use of substances within the community and the impact that that is having, and how a lot of queer people have reservations and fears about seeking medical help because of the judgment that there is going on within the medical world. Like, there is a trans lady character in this, and she reveals that she hasn't been to a doctor in years, and absolutely understandable considering, you know, the state of the world right now. Now, my regular members of the Horde will already know that I used to work with drag queens before the world shut down in 2020. So I have met every single one of these characters, not just as a one-off experience, but as an absolute regular. You are talking drag queens with absolutely huge personalities, lots of gay men, there are trans ladies, there is a lesbian couple where one of them calls the other like Papi or Pops, and they have that kind of dynamic. There's another lesbian couple who are trying for a family. There is a lot going on in terms of the diversity and representation that is going on within the cast. There is non-binary people. I think there's a trans boy as well at one point, if I remember correctly. Like, if you can think of a letter under the alphabet, like, that lives under our umbrella, there is somebody in this movie who matches one of those letters. And for the allies out there, there is even a straight man character in this who gets an education on pronouns and gender expression, and they are not a bad guy in the slightest. They are just in need of a little bit of education.
Scooby-Doo, take note.
We waste pretty much no time getting into the zombie outbreak part of this movie. It's within the first 5 minutes that you see somebody get bitten and turn, but there is a bit of a jump between this first bite and the next outbreak that we get, and we're talking about 25 minutes, so there's enough time to sort of introduce you to everybody and build everybody up before things really start to kick off. And it is also that I'm gonna point out that the zombies are not your traditional classic zombies in any kind of way. The makeup on them is quite simplistic. It's a bit like a very scaled back version of the vampires from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like simple face prosthetics going on, but they are metallic. They are shiny, shiny silver in colour, which took me a little bit by surprise, but I got used to it by the end of it because a lot of this movie takes place under like LED club lighting, so it's not actually a bad choice to make them shiny and metallic because it stops them being flat and two-dimensional under like green and purple LED lights. But when they're not under LEDs, it is a little bit like they are spawn of the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz.
A man made out of tin!
A lot of the practical effects in this are fairly straightforward, they're fairly simple. There's a lot of like weapons stuck in people, there's some rats going on in this movie that have little glowy eyes. There's one kill that I can think of that is CGI, but simply because if you did that kill, you'd probably kill the actor. So I can appreciate that we have gone for a much more practical effects approach with this movie, because practical effects over CGI every single day of the week here on my channel. I will say though that it is just a tad too long at 1 hour and 41 minutes, and had they made this like a solid like 90-minute, hour-and-a-half movie, oh, this would have been a lovely zippy horror comedy that would have not lost any of its heartfelt moments or any of its storyline that needs to be there. Just, it's got a little bit of pacing issues going on where we have like little branches of storylines going on that I think you could probably get rid of, in all honesty, and just make it that little bit pacier, that little bit snappier. And you, like I said, you wouldn't lose any of the storyline if you did chop down those 10 minutes. Quick. Its soundtrack though is a banger, and if you are somebody that spent a lot of time in queer nightlife, I guarantee that you have heard most of these songs at some point. Like, the number of years I spent working with drag queens, I have heard the Scissor Sisters at least once or twice a week. I have heard Kesha probably the same. Like, trust me when I say, if you've ever been to Pride, you've heard half the soundtrack. In the end, I am actually going to give Queens of the Dead from 2025 a 4 out of 5 stars. It's safe to say that my most anticipated horror movie of the year did not disappoint. I just think it's a tad too long, which gives it some pacing issues, and there's just a few too many story branches going on that you could well and truly slim down, and it doesn't mean that anybody would be cared less about in the overall runtime. But trust when I say, if a zombie apocalypse ever breaks out, like, my community will be absolutely fine, because between all of us, I think we have every single essential skill that you would ever possibly need completely covered. But my opinion isn't the only one that matters, which begs the question, should you personally watch Queens of the Dead from 2025 if you like your horror movies flavoured with positive LGBTQ+ representation, diversive, inclusive casting, shiny metallic zombies, Olivia Cruises, which is one for my like girlies that like girlies out there, or anything that is listed here, then you will probably like Queens of the Dead from 2025. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my review for my first time watching Queens of the Dead from 2025. If you've also seen this movie, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are down in the coffins section, 6 feet below the video. Pull yourself up a lovely cozy casket and have a chat with everybody down there. They are a lovely bunch and they don't bite unless you ask. If you would like to know where this movie is streaming, as always, I will leave a link in the description bar to justwatch.com so you can find out where it is streaming in your country. And if you would like to know where else you can find me, I am also over on Instagram and Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror, where I post every single horror movie that I watch, not just the ones that I talk about here on YouTube. But speaking of YouTube, coming up on Friday is another more recent release that I have been tracking from its festival circuit back in the summer, and it is a little independent Canadian movie starring Stephen Ogg, who my gamers out there will probably know best as Trevor from GTA 5, and it is a movie called Scared Shitless, which I can only describe as like if the Ghostbusters were plumbers, but instead of taking on a ghost, they were taking on a man-made parasitic monster that was using the plumbing system in a building to absolutely ferally savage the residents of the apartment block. So, until next time, bye. A special thank you though to my regenerators here within the Horde for their support over on Patreon.